Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'm getting ready to show you the money on exactly how I am spending the company bonus that just got paid. Because, hey, quite frankly, I agonized quite a bit of what I was going to do with this money once it actually got paid out. And so, quite frankly, one of the reasons why I'm making this particular video is again just going back to even why I started this channel, right? I'm a Gen Xer. I am on a journey to financial freedom and basically focused on saving, investing. I am trying to embrace minimalism and plan for my future. So I was like, hey, let's go ahead if I'm doing, uh, cash stuffing of my paycheck, if I'm talking about what I've been invested in, if I'm talking about this and that, well, clearly, also one of my paychecks just happens to be a bonus, then I need to also be transparent with how exactly I am doing my moves and shakes, with that bonus. Just as a brief reminder, I'm an engineer with about 20 years of experience, and I work in the energy field. So, without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive right into it. So, as you can see, this was just paid to me on April the 4th. And so, actually, um, the pay was $21,830 was my gross amount. Let me just kind of highlight that here. So that was my gross amount. Um, Quite frankly, I had did a lot of research ahead of time. This is my first bonus with this company, and so I did a lot of research ahead of time, and so I knew that the federal withholding was going to be about 22% because this is a bonus. State tax, it is what it is. But quite frankly, um, I wasn't expecting the whole disability and the Medicare, like the Social Security stuff too, kind of had forgotten about that. Um, so that kind of works out to, I think when I did the math, it was like a little over seven, like between 7, 8%, because basically um, employees have to pay this on their earned income, as well as the employer also, pays this same amount as well. It's basically split up between the employee and the employer. Um, and so, with that being said, from this 21,000, basically about 70, just a little bit over 7,400, um, got taken out for taxes. So that's just one thing I would say in the future for people who do get bonuses. There's usually a lot of videos out where people are talking about why do bonuses get taxed so much. And so, like I said, it's likely not your federal and state, just because there is a certain requirement for them to withhold from that. So it's likely the Social Security stuff that really kind of catches people off guard, because it does get taken out of your normal paycheck, and probably for a bonus, maybe people aren't even thinking about that. I know personally, I was not. So be that as it may, let's actually get into. So with that, that means that my net pay was $12,661 dollars. Now, technically, it was a little bit more. It was more like 14,000 because I did keep my Roth contribution for that. So again, I had contacted my HR ahead of time because again, this was my first time getting a bonus, and so 174640 actually got put into my 401k, which I contribute to the Roth amount. So if you add those two amounts, you'll see on my Excel sheet that actually this ends up being, again, so it ends up being $14,407.40. And so um, in this case, because I was not expecting this, clearly I was expecting a little bit more. I was expecting more like about 16,000. So I had previously, as you see, I have a sheet where I was quote unquote planning for my bonus check. what I was going to do with it. And so then when the amount that I got was actually less as far as the net pay, it was less than what I was expecting. And then I was like, okay, well, I have to kind of like reprioritize from a standpoint of what is the actual money like split gonna end up uh, being. And so um, I'm always trying to make sure, like when me and my husband, when we have our conversations, we're always trying to balance both putting away stuff for our future self as we continue to get older. You know, we're Gen Xers, but then also kind of that living in the moment and enjoying life, you know, as well. So we're not trying to ignore either one. So in this case, what it ends up working out to is I ended up implementing pretty much an 80/20 split for spending this bonus. And when I say 80/20, I mean pretty much putting away like 80%, whether it's into some sort of savings or investment, and then kind of 20% for the now. So 80% for the future, you might as well say, and then 20% for the now. So as we already discussed, you've already seen from the pay slip that 1746 and $1,746.40, which was about 12%, basically went to my Roth 401k. So again, of course, that's future us. Then for our emergency reserves, so we are rebuilding our 3 month emergency reserves. We did have medical stuff that happened last year. Thankfully, we had an emergency reserves last year, but of course, with medical, we had to end up paying for it. So therefore, you know, we did. Majority of us was medical, but then we did kind of get a little lazy as far as like we were like eating out a lot and that whole doing stuff with like Uber Eats and stuff like that too. So basically that kind of like basically gutted our reserve. So clearly, eating out is not an emergency, but medical stuff is. But anyway, be that as it may, so we are rebuilding to our 3 months. And so with that, right? So then you could say, you can see here that I have a tab that we went through and tallied up what our living expenses are on a monthly basis. And then obviously you times that by three if you're doing a 3 month emergency fund, or you times that by six if you're doing a 6 month emergency fund. And so I did like bump this up a little bit. And so I was like, okay, with what we have left previously, I was thinking, okay, boom, like we're going to go ahead, fund this emergency reserves, and like basically our emergency fund will be done. And then we still have like a little bit of money to like play with for our current us. But again, that's not what it ended up happening. So again, it is what it is. So what ended up happening for the emergency reserves is went on ahead, and as you can see, we did put the bulk of it, we decided to put the bulk of the money to our emergency reserves. So $8,804.41 was sent to our emergency account. And so what that ends up providing us is that with that additional money, now our emergency fund balance is $9,824.31. So we are now 76% um, towards like, you know, closer to our goal. So let me just go ahead and let's see, let me blow this up some. So when I did all of our bills, and as you can see, like even the debt, so basically, and I did round this up just so I could have nice, just zero numbers, because clearly, conservatively, in this case, it's better to be conservative than not conservative. So basically, our spend is about 4,300 a month. And so with 3 months, that puts us just under 13,000. And so just to again make things easier, basically it's like, hey, we're rocking towards a $13,000 emergency reserve fund. So that's that. And then lastly for debt, so the way because I get paid bi-weekly right now, we're just a single income household. But um, how I have arranged our budget is the majority of our bills are 1 month ahead, with the exception of our student loan. So, um, because of this additional funds, then now we are going to be in a position where when we pay our student loans, we're actually going to be 1 month ahead. So, as you can see, like technically, I think it's like just under 80%. What is that? 78%. But again, basically, like I said, for all intents purposes, we implemented an 80/20 split. So all of this is future us and debt. Okay, so then we say, all right, I'm good. I'm good with, hey, if we're basically putting, the bulk of this money away, do whatever the heck we want with the rest. So now let's get into our little guilt-free spending. Okay, so guilt-free spending for us basically was, okay, hey, we do have a bonus. We're not going to fall into the trap of quote unquote, I deserve to do this, I deserve to do that because of, all this work that I did and now I got this bonus. We don't want to go that far of the extreme because clearly, if we did, then likely we would not have put so much money towards our future. But it's like, hey, you know what? This is a bonus and I earned this bonus, right? And so I think that it is totally okay to, kind of reward yourself. And so, how do we call ourselves rewarding each other is, basically this. So, not even 3%, okay? Not even 3%, but basically $400, so $200 per person. That's quote unquote extra cash that we decided to give ourselves. And again, we can do whatever we want. My husband can do whatever he wants with his $200. I can do whatever I want with my $200. So, that is the thing. And I know in this video I'm kind of going back and forth between I or we or whatever. The way that my husband and I uh, handle our finances. We do have together accounts, and that is where the majority of our money is, whether it's a checking account or a savings account. Now, obviously, when you get into retirements, that stuff is individual. Um, but from a bank account standpoint, we do. It works for us that we also have our own account where it is just the one person. It's not a joint account. And so, quite frankly, um, if I want to surprise him and he don't see a swipe happen from a joint account, then I can do that. The same thing with him. If he, for whatever the reason, wants to surprise me with something, he can swipe from his personal and I will have no idea. I will be surprised because I don't see stuff. But like I said, when it comes to our joint accounts, we have little alerts that's set up. When certain things happen, we do automate as much as possible. So again, that's what works for us. And that's all I can talk about. Okay, so then that means the rest we chose to put towards family vacations. So this ends up being $2,672.64. So this ends up being just under 20%. It's like 18%. And so, quite frankly, we have a total of 3 vacations planned for us for the entire 2025. These are vacations that could be just me and him, or it's like with our family. So, again, family and friends, well, not really friends, but family vacations. This stuff is already planned for. And so, yeah, so the rest, if we done spent all of this, whatever was left, that was what was going to go to that. And so, with that being said, clearly, both of the items are net 14,407.40 um, is aligned with how we have spent this money. And so, hey, just to let you know, if I go back to Let's see, what's the little pay slip here. So as you can see, I did come on this video and show you the money of how we spent um, our uh, our our bonus. So I hope you enjoyed this journey. Thank you for coming along with us. Again, it's ups, downs, twists and turns. We're gonna figure it out, and we're using this channel to document our journey. So, hey, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. Thanks again for joining us. Have a good day. Bye.